Hello and a very warm welcome to the Slovakia Ring, a brand new circuit for most of us, an exciting new entry, if you like, for the FIA GT3 European Championship. I'm Ben Edwards, and I'm very glad to say alongside me a special guest co-commentator for this first race of the weekend. FIA GT1 star Thomas Enger is with me. Thomas, welcome to the commentary box, and it's great to have you with us. I know we're not in the Czech Republic, but we are in Slovakia, the other part of what used to be Czechoslovakia when you were born. Now, of course, two separate countries. And quite a new race circuit, isn't it?
Good afternoon, everybody. Yeah, definitely. It's a brand new circuit. It's been open last year at the beginning of the season, and it hasn't done many of races and none of the international races. So this is actually first big international race for this country and for this circuit being here with the FIA GT3 European Championship.
It's lovely to see quite a few people have turned up. I mean, presumably for fans in this part of the world, you know, they haven't had much chance to see cars racing at this kind of level. So we're not far from Austria. I mean, I flew into Vienna yesterday. That was quite an easy drive. So it can draw people from all sorts of places here.
That's correct. I have seen few people today from Austria, a few people from Hungary. Obviously, Slovakian locals are here, and people from Czech Republic as well. So it's great to see, you know, such a international audience here.
Yeah, well, we've got an international grid as well. Let me tell you, we've got drivers from some 17 different countries. Lovely weather conditions. Track temperature 36 degrees, so that's pretty good. Air pressure, it's a lovely day basically. It's an absolutely gorgeous day. 26 degrees air temperature. So you can see fans are out on the grandstands. Quite a lot of VIP guests, and I know you're going to be whizzing some of those VIP guests around later on in the day, aren't you?
Yeah, I'll be driving some sponsors and guests with the DTM taxi car, so we have a passenger seat in it, and I hope it's going to be interesting for them.
Well, let's take a look at the cars that are lining up on the grid then. There's the number 51 Ferrari, Glyn Geddy and Dan Brown standing beside the car. Dan on the far side there, Glyn, who will be starting the race in this car. And they're back on the 5th row of the grid. They were reasonably happy with things this morning, but they suffered some bad luck in the early part of the season. Had a few mechanical woes. It's still very early days, really, for the Ferrari 458, but it is a fast car. And that has been proven by one of the other cars on the grid. Their teammates, in fact, the number 50 car of Francesco Castellacci and Federico Leo, because they lead the championship at the moment. Now, there's a slightly different way of getting around. That's not a GT3 car, is it?
Well, it's a tank. It's I think it's on a show. It's for the ride for the spectators. You know, the organizers try to do other stuff apart of racing for the fans. You know, to show them this kind of stuff, and there will be also air show to see, and obviously also the VIP ride.
I'm not sure it's going to be very quick into turn 1, but you wouldn't want to bang wheels with it, would you?
No, definitely not.
Okay, so let's get down to the grid now, because we've got some front runners that we want to talk to. Aziz Al Faisal starts on the 5th row in his BMW, and Haley Coxon is with him.
Abdul, have you been happy with the performance so far with the BMW?
Yeah, I mean, we didn't know what to expect since we switched to Michelin's. So we came into the weekend really not knowing how fast the others are going to be and how fast we are going to be compared to them. But I guess for me, I'm happy to be mid-grid, or at least in the top 10, than to be in the back then with the past performance. So I think it's a good performance from me. I know that I could have done better, but it's our first time here, so we're going to learn. It's going to be a long race.
Thank you.
So the Saudi prince there, who has had, as he says, some good results so far this year, but they'd like to score consistently this weekend. They had a non-finish in the first race at Paul Ricard. They're currently 3rd in the points, though, so still very much in the campaign to try and win the championship. Only one more event after this one, by the way, in the series. That's going to be at Zandvoort in October. So we are getting to a pretty crucial stage in the championship now, and it is close. We've got that Ferrari that I mentioned earlier on leading the points at the moment on 79. Then the Greg Frankie and Enzo Eid Audi second on 75. Then that BMW we were just talking to Al Faisal. They're on 73 points, so they're within 6 points of the lead. It really is wide open at the moment in terms of the championship, and lots to look forward to. A couple of cars further up on the grid. We've got Paul van Splunteren Pro Speed Competition Porsche, a race winner at Paul Ricard last time out. out, and because of that, he has a 15-second extra long pit stop today. That's how they do it now in terms of handicap. If you win the previous race in GT3, you get 15 seconds longer on your pit stop. Everybody has to do a 65-second stop, but then he has an extra 15. There's an extra 10 seconds on the Aston Martin of Gaël Lesoudier and Max Martin, an extra 5 on the Audi of Enzo Ede and Greg Franke. Anthem playing out at the moment. And we're just taking a little look around the grid as it does so. There is Herbert Voss with the BMW, the faster racing by DB Motorsport BMW, and this car lining up on the 4th row of the grid, so alongside that Porsche. And those guys have also had some great results this season. They didn't go too well at Paul Ricard last time out, though, and therefore they dropped back a little bit in the championship because they had been leading the series earlier on in proceedings. Moving further up, we've got another BMW and a Mercedes on the 3rd row of the grid. We've got Taba Volta and Claudia Hurtgen, the car that they share. That is car number 7, and they're looking for another strong result. And as we've heard, all the cars now are running on the Michelin tyres as opposed to Dunlops, because this car was on Dunlops earlier in the year, which seemed to have an edge in certain conditions, but overall I think they feel that they're going to be better off on the Michelins, and they've certainly qualified better than we've seen for a little while. Qualifying was their weakness perhaps on the Dunlop, and they start on the 3rd row of the grid, but it's a real mixture of cars up at the top end of the field, no doubt about it. We've got a Lamborghini, Ferrari on the front row, we've got 2 Mercedes on the 2nd row, then we've got BMW and Mercedes and Porsche and another BMW behind them. So it's a real mix-up of the different brands, the different manufacturers that are involved in GT3. And just to remind you, of course, drivers in GT3 are graded according to their experience levels, their past success levels as well. So you may have a bronze driver, less experienced, less successful driver, teamed up with a silver graded driver, or perhaps even a gold rated driver. And we've got something like 8 gold rated drivers here this weekend. Those guys will be taking over normally in the second half of the race, because the quicker drivers normally going out second. Up on pole position, though, it is slightly unusual colours of the Lamborghini Gallardo of Albert von Turner Taxis. Is no longer black because the car got damaged at Spa, but he went fast in qualifying. Let's hear from him.
Albert, qualifying certainly belonged to the team. Will the race belong to you, though?
I do hope so. I do hope so. It will be a tough race, I think, because we have a lot of cars, very competitive cars in the top 10, and very, very equal driver pairing. So I think it will be quite a tough race, and it will be very tough on the tires as well. So it will be for them who are able to maintain their tires best to claim the win. I do hope that we can manage that.
Thank you.
So Albert von Turner Taxis, winner twice this year, but yet to have a race event where both races have really gone according to plan. They won last time out at Paul Ricard in race 1, and they also had a success at Navarra in the first race of the day there. But Thomas, really interesting this with the Lamborghini on pole position, the Ferrari which leads the championship there on the far side. Classic confrontation really, isn't it? V8 Ferrari up against the V10 Lamborghini, but behind them of course 2 rapid front engine Mercedes.
It will be definitely interesting race. Actually, it's a new track for everybody, but for the locals. There is Filip Sladečka on the 3rd row with the Mercedes. I think he might have some small advantage at the beginning of the race with knowledge of the circuit better than the others. But yeah, I'm looking forward to this interesting race.
On-board camera there with the guy on the outside of the front row. That's Federico Leo, 2 youngsters in that black Ferrari, but they are leading the championship. We'll have to see what it's all about. So we're only a minute away from the start of the race. Some of these drivers, Thomas, are less experienced, well, most of them are less experienced than you, but what are the drivers feeling at the moment? The adrenaline's beginning to buzz a bit now, isn't it?
Well, it's definitely a moment which nobody likes. It's the waiting for the green flag now into the formation lap. Obviously the adrenaline is buzzing, and the other thing is that your blood pressure is also pumping up and you're just sitting in a car and not doing anything. You want to get going, you want to drive and get the green flag into the race.
The minutes, the countdown always seems so slow, doesn't it, before you actually get going?
It's just the only thing what you're doing, you're checking your fuses, you're checking the dashboard, all the temperatures and everything.
So let's take a look at the grid then. It's Lamborghini versus Ferrari on the front row. Two Mercedes of two different teams on the second row of the grid up there. And then on the third row, BMW versus Mercedes. So a good German pairing of cars. Same next up as well, the Porsche versus the BMW. The Audis didn't qualify quite so well. As you can see, we've got Ferrari of Glengetty 9th, Al Faisal's BMW 10th. And then we've got the first of the Audis. That's Demey's Audi there. Paltala in the Ford GT, that's qualified in 12th place. Then we've still got another mix. Enzo Ede and Greg Frankie way back in 14th. Enzo had a bit of an off in qualifying and never was able to get the best out of his tyres after that. And as we go further back down the grid, one or two others to keep an eye out on. Zach Brown there in the number 23 United Autosports Audi. The other car, the number 22 car, was damaged this morning. Joe Osborne went off the road. It starts down there in 21st place. They have repaired the car. They were a bit unfortunate though, because he went off into the tyre barrier on the exit of turn 9. Bit of damage to the front end, and the unfortunate thing was the car was then picked up, and on its way back it then fell off the back of the recovery truck, so it then damaged the rear end as well. So they ended up with a bit more damage on the Audi than they were expecting. There's a car also to keep an eye on, to the BMW right down towards the back of Nicky Katzberg, who you race against in GT1, but his teammate Harry Collin didn't do many laps in practice yesterday and wasn't really able to sort of get further up the grid. But it's fun, isn't it? There's a few guys in this event that you race against in GT1.
Yeah, I mean, definitely it's going to be interesting once these fast guys, which I drive against them in the GT1 or I drove before, when they take over their teammates in the second half of the race and see them progressing up against the other drivers. So yeah, it's going to be a mixed race. It will be interesting to see how the tires will last on each cars. I believe the Audis were not fast in qualifying, but they might be fast during the race, as their tires might, the tire wear might be better against some of the other cars, particularly the Mercedeses.
It's a good mix of cars in the FIA GT3 European Championship. There's no doubt about that. We've got 11 front-engine cars, 14 mid-engined and 2 rear-engine cars on the grid today. Max Martin, there's another of GT1 drivers who also does a bit of GT3 in his spare time as well. And the cars making their way on this long formation lap. Now this track is 5.9 kilometers long, so nearly 4 miles in length, and yet it's very compact the way it's laid out. It also folds in on itself. So the spectators here get an absolutely fantastic view, don't they?
That's correct. The track might be long, 5.5 kilometers, but it actually lands in pretty small areas, so spectators can see from the grandstand few corners, you know, half of the circuit. It's great for them. Plus the other thing is it's interesting circuit, as there are a lot of fast corners, a lot of medium speed corners, not many slow corners, and there are a few crests as well, where we've seen in the practices or qualifying the cars lifting off the ground a little bit. So it will be interesting to see first 2 laps, because the last thing we want to have is the repeat of Le Mans a few years ago.
Absolutely. Cars now coming towards the end of the formation lap then, in preparation for the first race of the weekend on this new circuit, the Slovakia Ring. We're just down the road from Bratislava. Absolutely perfect weather conditions as we prepare for the start. The Lamborghini on pole of Albert von Thurn Taxis. Up against him, the championship leading Ferrari of Federico Leo. They bring them out of turn 13, and then it's just through the kink 14 and onto the start-finish area where they'll really begin to light things up. And it's a big field of cars once again here this weekend. Some 27 cars. Out of the final corner they come then. The pace car is into the pits. The race is going to be underway very soon. Lamborghini versus Ferrari, and cars already beginning to pass one another. The lights are still on red though, and I don't think, oh, it's green on our screen, so it's gone green. Yeah, it's gone green. We're under race conditions, and away goes Albert von Thurn Taxis, and the Mercedes immediately pouncing on the Ferrari. And we've got a spinner right in the middle of the pack. Herbert Voss is spun around. Cars all over the place trying to avoid him. Through the gravel goes the Aston Martin, And is he going to get back out? I'm not sure he is. Up front, Albert von Taxis leads. The Mercedes are second and third, and another Lamborghini they're trying to squeeze through in the mix. That is the other Reiter car, which this weekend later will be driven by Stefan Rosina. It's Anton Chiaba in the car at the moment, but we thought it might be tricky, and sure enough, Thomas, we've had problems on the opening lap.
Wow, yeah, I mean, first corner, always very dangerous, and as we've seen, the start was a bit tricky for some of the cars. Some, I believe, got a jump start. We have to get a confirmation from the race director later on, but obviously the first corner, too many cars in one place, and that was the result of it.
So it's all happening up front. Into second place has gone Dominic Baumann. We're on board the Ferrari. He got passed by both those Mercedes. So Dominic Baumann got past him. So did Philip Sladecker. And he's trying to get back past Sladecker there. And he's the local who knows the circuit pretty well, so he knows where to shut the door. But the Ferrari hasn't got past yet. Behind him is the Porsche of Paul van Splunteren. So these four cars just all dicing over what is second, because Albert von Taxis in the Lamborghini Gallardo is already beginning to open up a little bit of a gap. Second, third, fourth you're looking at, and fifth is the blue and white Porsche of Paul van Splunteren. Nicky Melnhoff, he's teammate to Albert von Taxis. He's happy because his car is opening up an advantage on this first lap and getting away as the clock ticks away at the top of the screen. It's a 1 hour race, remember, with the driver changes around halfway through. Second place still for the moment is Dominic Baumann in the number 44 Mercedes. There trying to squeeze through on the inside is Staber Volta in the BMW. He's got Glyn Geddy in the Ferrari tucked in behind as we go on board the number 50, the black Ferrari, still running in fourth place. And as they come over the line this time, Albert von Taxis has a 1.6 second advantage. Good first lap from Albert.
Wow, that's amazing. I mean, to be more than 1 second faster in the first lap, that's nearly 2 seconds on the second guy. It's just a tremendous job. We've seen that the first corner is clear now. All the cars are gone, so luckily everybody's back on the track.
Yeah, absolutely. Glyn Geddy has got past Walter there, and there is the Ford still going reasonably well, but trying to move up the ground, make up some ground is Marcus Paltala, another very, very quick driver indeed, up over the rise. And you can see the front of the car light as it comes up over the rise. That's where we've seen some of the cars actually lifting off the ground, and where the drivers actually have to ease the throttle a little bit. But right up front at the moment, it is the number 24 Lamborghini of Albert von Taxis, the two Mercedes behind, and there's a note on our timing screen. There's a bit of debris on track, presumably as a result of that accident on the first lap. Glyn Geddy in the red Ferrari has got a bit of an opportunity there. Oh, the Audi running very wide. That was Jerome Demey running wide, and he almost allowed the Ferrari to come through, but he wasn't able to take full advantage of that, so he slotted in behind him once again. And just looking at the time, oh, we've got one of the Mercedes into the pits. The spot which one? The number that's the number 3 car, Mike Parisi, who was so quick yesterday. That's his teammate Philippe Gioc in the car at the moment. They didn't qualify so far up on the grid for this one. They were on the 7th row, but Gioc gets going once again, maybe a puncture or something there. They've got him en route, but of course lost a lot of time. So the two Mercedes running second and third, Ferrari still in fourth, rest of them coming through. The other Ferrari still trying to chase down the Audi up ahead, but this is really working for Albert von Taxis, as long as he hasn't taken too much out of his tyres here, Thomas, because he is pushing hard, isn't he?
That's the thing, you have 1 hour race. Oh, we got...
Yeah, the number 35 car, that was involved, if you remember, at the beginning. In that first, he seemed to spin, or whether he got touched, I'm not sure, but he was in trouble, wasn't he?
Yeah, well, it's interesting now. We've seen Albert pushing pretty hard, but you have to manage your tires. Once you use the tires a lot at the beginning, it's pretty hot. The surface is very hot. Once you use the tires too much at the beginning, then the teammate will be struggling at the end of the race, so you just want to manage the tires as best as possible.
Unlike GT1, they don't get a new set of tyres to use at the pit stop, do they? So they've got to make them last. You just saw a little bit of a move for Marcus Paltala, but slowly coming in to the pits is Aziz Al Faisal. And let's go down and hear what happened to the Mercedes we saw a moment ago of Mike Parisi.
Mike, after picking up some of the fastest times here this weekend, it's a disappointing start for you. Is the car going to be okay?
Yes, it's not a very good result for the beginning of the race, because the team Graf Racing, the Mercedes, did a very good job at the beginning of the weekend, because we were the fastest. and Philippe Jock did a mistake during this qualify, and he took the start in 13th position, so it's quite difficult when you start a race in the traffic. So it was a risk, we know it, and quite disappointed because we can play the first position with Mercedes and Gulf Racing, and it's not it don't represent our potential, so but difficult.
Thank you.
Well, we're watching an entertaining battle between the two Heike Motorsport teammates in the Mercedes SLS, and back from that, they're looking at them actually from the Ferrari behind now of Federico Leo. And you were spotting there, Thomas, that Philippe Sladecker in the second of the Mercs has set fast his lap, and as you said, he's trying to use his local knowledge here to move forward, isn't he?
Yeah, he's the guy who was starting from 6th position, and he got really great first lap, great start, and now he's pushing his teammate for 2nd position.
Doing well, and meanwhile, Jerome Demey is coming under pressure from both a Ferrari and a Ford. The Ford GT, the red stripes up the white car of Marcus Paltalla, really now getting tucked in behind the Ferrari 458, and a classic confrontation, Ferrari versus Ford GT. Glengetty goes one way, then the other. Paltalla does likewise, can't find a way through. There's a slippery surface flag. I think, in fact, that indicates the debris that's on this part of track from the earlier accident, and Paltalla wasn't able to do anything there. In the pits as well, I'm afraid, is the number 6 BMW of Al Faisal, and that's really disappointing for the team that's currently 3rd in the Drivers' Championship. Al Faisal won't be too happy about that, but I think maybe got caught up in that first corner accident. Meanwhile, there you are, still with the Ferrari and the Porsche. They're battling for 4th place. Federico Leo staying ahead of Paul van Splodenoff has gone the other of the St. Lot cars, the number 16 of Pierre Hirschi. Hirschi in the gravel trap pretty deeply. He's not going to come back from there, and well, could bring out a safety car perhaps. That's down at turn 1. So first car, Thomas, that we've seen actually stranded by the side of the circuit.
Yeah, well, I believe there might have been some contact, otherwise the car wouldn't be in this position, but we're going back to the battle for P2 and P3, and it looks like it's settled down right now. The lap times are similar of all 3, 4, 5 drivers, so so far so good.
Yeah, absolutely not a bad start so far, but are they looking after their tyres? We'll get to see. And another car has gone off. That's a separate spin, a separate incident. I don't think the safe might be the other side. I'm not sure. It's one of the other Audis. Try and spot which that is. It's the 32 car that's gone off. It's actually Jirko Malkarek, who is a former government minister, actually, interestingly enough, but he's also a pretty keen race driver, but unfortunately looks as though he's put it into the... Oh, and was there a bit of steam or smoke from the Ford as the Ferrari really putting Demey under pressure there. Glengetty, I think Marcus Paltalla might have a problem behind, because he was right on the boot lid of the Ferrari, and wasn't he?
He's losing right now, so it looks like he might have a problem.
That's a great shame, because he was part of this three-way tussle. Yellow flags, though, they're not allowed to overtake here because that other car's still being recovered. Waved yellow flags. No way you can argue with the race director you haven't seen those, because they're pretty obvious to us, and the drivers have to behave and not overtake one another. So they haven't used the safety car. What they've done there is just gone and recovered it as is.
Which is still good, because there is a lot of space. There is a big travel grab, and there was no dangerous position of the car being in the gravel, so yellow flag was just fine.
Yeah, so Glengetty here still trying to get past the Audi. That's the... Oh, look, do you see the front wheels off the ground of the Ferrari that time? Definitely in the air. And look how close. Oh, he's got a chance down the inside, but the Audi just comes back on him.
It's interesting battle, and as we've seen, Audi in, which is it, 7th position. So...
Oh, and the other Mercedes there, the other Graf Racing car. We saw the number 3 car in earlier, now the number 4 car's in as well. So Graf Racing having a horrible time. Gregoire Demoustier qualified on the 2nd row with that car. So it's all gone wrong from their point of view. Meanwhile, Glengetty still trying everything to get past this Audi, and both mid-engine configuration, of course, but the Ferrari, I think, has got the legs of the Audi, at least on this circuit. Each track we go to seems to suit one car more. Look for the Ferrari second here. Look at the front wheels. Up off the ground.
Wow.
Wow, look at that. Very impressive. and then back down. Now, I was talking to Matt Griffin, another Ferrari driver, and he said he had that happen to him in practice. And he said, it's pretty scary, and you expect the car to come down with a bang, but actually it's sort of cushioned by the air, and it comes down quite gently. Have you ever had that experience?
Well, luckily I haven't, but we've already had a car flipping over this crest in the testing. I don't know what kind of car it was, but it's definitely, I would say, dangerous place for these cars, or for fast cars, such powerful cars. But I know that Mercedes has been testing here just particularly because of this jump to don't have or repeat the problems they had in Le Mans several years ago. And I know they found a solution for it, and they've also managed to do something with the engine management, with the map of the engine, and it actually cut the ignition once the tires, the front tires, goes up in the air.
That's clever, right? Well, that's a really clever. This is the hump that we're talking. Look, the Mercedes look really solid over there, as you say. And in fact, the other cars there all looked pretty good. And we've got damage on the front end there of the number 35 BMW. So a faster racing team really having a horrible time. Herbert Voss, he was. We saw him going slowly earlier. He was definitely a spinner at the first corner, and now. Looks as like the right front might have disintegrated and ripping bits of bodywork off. Is it? No, the tyre's still there, but it's some bodywork jamming into it. So, not going well, but it is going well for Albert van Toorn and Taxis, who leads this race 1.6 seconds ahead. Let's go and hear from his teammate, Nicky Melnoff.
Nicky, Albert certainly got on the pace out there, started the race off very well. Is it going to be a disadvantage with regards to the tyres towards the end of the race?
I think he's going a good pace, not too fast, and keeping good care of the tyres, and it's going to be really tough at these temperatures, but he's taking better care on the tyres than I do, so it's better for him that he starts, but it's going to be really tough. If the quicker guys come into the car, and if I don't get a big gap, it's going to be really tough, but we're still fighting.
Thank you.
Well, drama's going on. We saw Paul van Splunteren car spun. We've got the other Ford having spun. That's Escalainen in the number 14 Ford. We saw the other car perhaps beginning to drop back earlier on, and it has dropped back actually. Yeah, I can confirm that the other Ford is in trouble. And that's Harry Collins' BMW now, not the... We've seen the 35 car already in trouble. That's the 36 car that Nicky Katzberg was going to due to take over later. And now that's stuck, as you can see, spinning the rear. It's all happening at the moment, isn't it? Cars falling off all over the place.
It's amazing. It starts quite good at the beginning of the race. The first corner shunt a little bit. Problem starts there, and then obviously another collisions. Unfortunately, we are not able to see them on TV, but we see the cars in the gravel or having problems in the pits.
Well, let's just remind you what's going on. It's a Lamborghini that leads the race by, well, still only 1.4 seconds. These two Mercedes are certainly keeping that car honest at the moment. They're two teammates. Then you've got the Ferrari of the championship leaders, Federico Leo and Francesco Castellacci. You'll be taking over later. That's sitting in a very solid fourth at the moment. They'll be quite happy with that, I think, in this first stint of the race. There is that lead group then. It's Lamborghini, Mercedes, Mercedes, Ferrari. Behind them, by some way now, dropping back is the next group, which is the Jerome Demey car. Now let's see what happened to the Porsche out of turn 9. Oh, and he lost it quite early on, really.
Yeah, it was a classic situation of maybe going offline a little bit, being on power too hard, but obviously these cars have traction control, so the traction control should have been able to catch the spinning car, but it wasn't this case, unfortunately.
No, that's right, so it can still go wrong. We did see an accident there this morning. Joe Osborne went off there, but he ran wide, so that was... and down the inside, making the move, that is Sladecker now, and actually it didn't seem as though Baumann was really fighting that. It looked as though Baumann left the door quite wide open for him.
It looks like he might start to have a problem, the car 44, and just decided to let the teammate go. We've seen that the number 45 car just put lights to say thank you.
That's Paltalla's car. He was good. We thought he had a problem, didn't we? And he slowed right down. There's the car that Nicky Katzberg was due to take over at the pit stops. That's not going to happen either. We're still about 10 minutes away, just over 10 minutes from the pit window opening up, when teams can bring the cars in and swap drivers, and they have to stick to that minimum pit window, the pit stop time here, 65 seconds. Porsche versus Lamborghini now. Van Splunteren, who had that spin earlier on, has now found himself under pressure here. Big pressure indeed from Giaba in the Lamborghini right behind. They're battling over 8th place now, so you can see he lost quite a few places. Also behind him is Lapalainen in the other Pro Speed competition, Porsche, and then another of the Ferraris tracking down. There's Lapalainen trying to have a look up the inside. Can't do it there, he's not quite close enough. And tucked in behind is Jan Danis, another Slovakian driver just behind them in the Ferrari. So again, somebody with a bit of local knowledge.
Yeah, it looks like it's all mixed up right now, because some of the guys which started at the back are now in the middle of the field, and a lot of cars just disappear from the middle of the field. So interesting race.
What a chance for Glengetty. Has he got that Audi at last? Oh, he's trying to squeeze. They touch almost as he gets on the grass, and he still can't do it, because oh, look at where he's going. My goodness, he's right over the curb on the grass trying to get past that Audi. Some frustration perhaps beginning to creep in here, but he still can't find a way through.
Yeah, that looks like it's going to happen very soon, because the Audi starts to be struggling with tires, it looks like. I mean, it's interesting, but I thought they might be better off.
Yeah, but he certainly is struggling at the moment. The Ferrari kicking up the dust once again, and Glengetty, the Scots driver who races in British GT as well, raced in the British Carrera Cup over the last couple of years, won the Pro-Am 2, then the Pro-Am 1 title in the Porsche Carrera Cup, but really determined to get past that Audi. But he also wants to keep the car in one piece and hand it over to Dan Brown. They've had enough non-finishes this year. They don't need any damage on the car, so he's got to try and find a way through, but do it in a way that looks after his own car down the backstretch towards the last couple of turns here. Can he get down the inside into turn 13? It's only a little light break here, and then it tightens up on them, and so it's a tricky place to try and overtake. And sure enough, the Audi has the position on the road. There's no space for the Ferrari. Now a good exit here, using the traction control to its maximum. That will hopefully draw him up behind the Audi, but is it enough? He comes down the start-finish straight, getting a little bit closer as they head down towards turn 1. Moves to the outside. Is he going to make the lunge? It's quite a short break here, and he's not quite there. Has a little look, but surely no, there's no way through. Has to keep following, and these guys are still fighting for what is 5th position. It's still a good position to be in, so he really doesn't want to throw it away. Behind him though, Java Volta is catching up a little bit in the BMW Z4, so he might not have this battle all to himself. Up over the big jump they come now. Watch this, see if he can, yeah, his front wheel stay on the ground. He is being sensible there, following another car. Of course, you've got less front downforce, so it can be worse over the rise there.
Plus, obviously, the driver can avoid having any troubles just by lifting off the throttle a little bit, or going out of the way the car is in front. So just like put a little bit downforce on the front end of the car.
Yeah, get out of the slipstream and then get a bit of a slide there from Getty, wasn't it? He's under pressure now himself from that BMW Z4, and that is a car that we've seen in the past, looks after its tyres pretty well. Front engine, the BMW, although the engine sits way back under the bonnet. It's almost really where the driver's feet are, so it's a beautifully balanced machine, isn't it?
It's actually, the engine is in the middle of the car, so it has good gravity.
Yeah, really good, that's right. Good centre of gravity, good low gravity as well. And coming out of this section, you can see, in fact, that in a way, Glengetty has had to start thinking about what's going on behind him, because he's now dropped a bit of ground on the Audi. Behind them is still Paul Van Splunteren there in the Porsche, the white and blue Porsche, under attack from Giaba in the Lamborghini, going well in that car. First time we've seen him in GT3, but he has got some experience of this track, Anton Giaba, but he's pretty much a rookie in many ways. He's only been racing for a couple of years, and Stefan Rosina, who will take that car over, well, he's a bit of a star in the Porsche Super Cup, so we'll have to see how he gets on in the second half of this race. But we've had just under 20 minutes of this 1 hour race so far. Race is still being led at the moment by Albert von Thurn Taxis, watching the battle here that's still going on for 5th, 6th and 7th places, as Java Volta in the BMW just tries to close up to both Audi and Ferrari. Up over the rise there, the first of those rises they come, and down the hill into this fast sweeping right-hander turn 2, and then a little short straight and into a much tighter corner after the hump. Let's just watch them. Over the hump they come.
Wow.
Again. the Ferrari front wheels well off the ground.
It's really scary to watch it. It's maybe spectacular, but scary for me like a driver.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not the sort of thing you want to see. Getty is pretty brave, but you need your front wheels on the ground to be able to control the car. Otherwise, you don't really know where it's going to end up. Audi runs very wide through that section outside of turn 5. They're going into turn 6 here. You can turn in deep, which is what he does, DeMay. Another look here, Thomas. Let's see. Oh, similar to last time.
That's interesting, amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, the problem is once you are in a slipstream behind another car, you don't have much of a downforce going onto the front bumper or front part of the car. So what happened, the front lifts up and gets the air underneath the car, where is the floor, and that can cause a problem.
Race leader's in trouble. The race leader slowing down. He's just ahead of this group. What's going on? Albert Montana taxis. Oh, what's happened to that car?
Looks like he's got a puncture left rear.
Right, yeah, it's sitting down. Oh, yeah, well spotted. That left rear wavering around. And Albert Montana taxis, who had a comfortable lead, is now dropping down the order. That means the new leader will be Philipp Sladecker in the Mercedes. He's gone across the line. Albert Montana taxis is limping. There is your new race leader. It's Mercedes 1-2 with a Ferrari in third, and all change before we get into the pit stops. So Sladecker really going to have to try and put in some quick laps now to get away from the other Mercedes, his teammate, and from that Ferrari as well, as Albert Montana taxis will hope for a quick pit stop, but he can't switch drivers. So whatever happens, he has to make another pit stop to get his other driver in the car, and that's going to drop them way back down the field.
What a shame for this Lamborghini. I mean, to be leading the race pretty comfortably, I would say, and then having this trouble, having a puncture. But we've seen several punctures throughout the weekend, so yeah, I'm pretty sure this is not the last one. We might have some more. Drivers have to be careful. The problem is, offline, you have a lot of gravel. When people are going off, they put the gravel onto the circuit when they rejoin, and sometimes you have to drive. You just drive where the line is. There might be slight stone or little sharp stone. It can cut a tire, and then you get a puncture.
Yeah, Max Martin had one in the Aston this morning in qualifying, and he was on a great lap too. It was a real shame. Looked as though he was set for a decent grid position for the second race. He's got a lot of dirt in the front of the car, I noticed.
It's possible that he went off due to the puncture. So we don't know. We haven't seen it.
A lot of grass being picked up, but you're right, he may well have lost control with all the grass after he got the puncture. They're going to change that rear wheel, obviously, but they cannot change drivers, even though Nicky's there ready to take over. It wouldn't do them any good unless they decide to sit in the pits. I suppose, I don't know if they could do that, sit in the pits until the pit window's opened. Would they lose less time? No, they're sending him back out. He'll have to do a couple of laps at least, and then back in for the driver change. So here we are, race leaders now, and that's how close the battle for the win is here, because you've got the two Mercedes separated by 0.8 of a second, I think it was last time. You're on board with the third place car. That is the Ferrari of Federico Leo. Nicky Marmelnoff shaking his head, cannot believe how it's all gone wrong for them. What does he have to do? Well, nothing he could do. Punctured tyre, that's just the rub of the green, really. Unlucky for them, but it has dropped them way back down the field, and so it's Sladecker who leads. There is Sladecker, Baumann in second place, Federico Leo in third, then a gap, quite a big gap back to Jérôme Demey, and there, it's not, they've changed the tyre, but now there's more problems.
Yeah, it looks like another...
What has happened?
It looks like that the wheel is actually broken, or it's rubbing onto the side
bodywork.
That's
really, really strange, and it's surely all over. Marmelnoff cannot believe it. And off to the side goes Montana taxis, head in his hands. Nicky Marmelnoff. Oh, what a horrible, horrible way for the race to end when they had it all under control.
It looks like it wasn't only puncture, it might have been some suspension problem, damage, collision, suspension collision, and that's why the tire was rubbing into the bodywork, and he got a puncture. They changed it in the pits, but they found out it was not the puncture only.
Well, that's promoted these guys, who are now fighting for fourth place because that Lamborghini's in trouble. So we've got several groups of cars. We've got the 1, 2, 3, there they are. They're all battling for the lead. Then you've got this gap, and then that other battle, which is 4th, 5th, 6th. So it's De May in the Audi, then Geddy in the Ferrari, and Csaba Volta in the BMW. So two distinct groups. And I notice also that the Lamborghini, the other writer-engineering Lamborghini of Chiaba, managed to get past Van Splinteren's Porsche. So he's now making a bit of progress as well. And that will be interesting later in the race when Stefan Rosina takes over the other Lamborghini. We know it's a fast car, but if they can avoid punches and that sort of thing, they'll be okay. Now, the time shows that the pit window has just opened up. And an interesting side, a little note on our timing screen I've never seen before, which says race control thanks driver of car number 24, and that's because the race director is happy that they pulled it off the road. Glyn Geddy's got another chance to get past the Audi, but he still can't do it, or can he, because the Audi's coming in. So he does get past, but only because the Audi is heading in, and Jérôme De May will hand over to Dino Lunardi. But what a good stint that was from him.
Definitely. The Audi was P6. Well, we'll see where it comes back, but we see also the
that was the second place car. Dominic Baumann also coming in, the number 25 Lamborghini. One to watch, Stefan Rosina to take. Oh, careful guys, you nearly take each other off. Two teammates, Pro Speed Porsche, stopped in the wrong place, and that's always an embarrassing thing to do.
Well, they have plenty of time to change drivers. They have 65 seconds from pit in to pit out, but you always try to do it as fast as possible, and sometimes you can have these troubles, these problems.
So, and also, and remember, it's 65 seconds for everybody except the top three from the last race, which includes Van Splunter, and he won last time, so he has an extra 15 seconds of sitting in pit lane. I don't think they're going to feature after that, because he'd already dropped back down to 8th after that earlier spin. So there you are, looking at the third place Ferrari. Now, I wonder how long Federico Leo will stay in a second place now, of course, because one of the Mercedes has come into the pits. So second place, how long will he stay out there? Will he come in on the next lap to hand over? Number 21 Ferrari is in the M-Tech car. Duncan Cameron handing over to Matt Griffin. If they can get the car out. Oh, that was awkward. They were stuck behind the Aston, which was about to leave anyway. So hopefully they haven't lost too much time as a result of that. The drivers will actually be counted down through their earpieces to make sure they don't get to the line at the end of the pits before the allocated 65 seconds are up. So they need to be listening to their team manager on the radio. Now, we see, yes, in comes the Mercedes, but out stays the Ferrari. Right, maybe they feel that in clear air the Ferrari can go a bit quicker here.
We've seen that a lot of cars choose to come in at the first moment when the pit lane was open. That's because all the teams want to have the fast drivers, which is in the second group, in the car as soon as possible, so they can win some time, they can win some places. But obviously you want to avoid eventual collision with your teammates, especially when you're running first and second. So that's why they choose, this team choose to bring the number 45 car first, sorry, 44 car first, and then lap later car 45.
Yeah, good tactics. And the Ferrari, the two drivers in the Ferrari, very evenly matched actually, Federico Leo and Castellacci, so it makes sense in a way for them to stay out there a little longer and see if they can steal a march on these cars. Remember, they don't get tyres, it's not new tyres, so you don't get that advantage, if you like, that you guys have in GT1, where a new set of tyres you can sometimes get past the guy you've been racing with thanks to the more grip that you've got.
That's correct. We've got similar teammates, so my teammate has the same performance as I do, but we see the leaders coming out of the pits.
Let's see for the lead, the two Mercedes, and look, it's quite a gap between them, isn't there, as they come back out onto the circuit.
Right.
And that's really worked for the second stop, and that's really interesting. So it is the number 45 car, yeah, so it's kept the advantage, but by quite a lot. Now, in the pits, that's the number 11 car. Unfortunately, that's the Gravity Charouz car of Leonid Majitsky and Yannick Yanis. So, I mean, that's a car you know a lot about.
Yeah, we've seen that Leonid has the collision, or was involved in collision in the first lap, in the first corner, and we've seen him spinning over there, so he lost probably half of the lap to the leaders, and now he hands over the car to Yannick Yanis, who was actually in his second group this morning in qualifying on second position.
Right, so fast here around the Slovakia ring. In comes the race leader, as it has been for the last lap, because they haven't been into the pits yet. Federico Leo, championship leader with his teammate Francesco Castellacci. Now, are they going to get this Ferrari Ferrari out ahead of the Mercedes that made the earlier pit stop. That's the big question here. Or are they going to lose out? So they have to stop for 65 seconds. They don't have any extra handicap from the last race at Paul Ricard, because they didn't finish in the top 3 in the second race at Ricard, although they did finish in top 3 in the first one there. They finished in second place. Mercedes, the two cars, the 45 and the 44, though, that's, in fact, the BMW's got between them, hasn't he? So I think that has actually gained the place. The Turbo Volta, it hasn't. Yeah, it has a Claudia Hurtgen there. She has gained a place. She's taken that car over. They've been into the pits, so she's got between the two Mercedes. So that's a gain for the BMW. But now the question is, where does the Ferrari come out between these guys, or ahead of them, or behind them? Castellacci, ready to go, gets the signal in a moment that he can be released. Away he goes, down the pit lane, on the speed limit. Now then, will he come out ahead of the Mercedes? It's going to be pretty tight. Mercedes in the background, black Ferrari joining from the pit lane. It's going to be tight as he comes on, and it's just going to be the Mercedes gets in front. Oh, it's so tight.
Interesting, yeah. Well, we've seen some position changes, and it's really nice to see also the BMW joining the first group of cars.
Yeah, no, we've got Mercedes, Ferrari and BMW top 3, with the other Mercedes still in there. So the car that really gained in a way throughout those pit stops was the BMW, Cesaro Walter.